my friend, it's Pat Sloan here, and it is Black Wednesday. Are you excited? We are on the last row. Yay! Got it all up here. What is the last row? 5 blocks? Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5, just 5. Okay, okay. What do we have? We have telephone time. Like I've said before, these blocks, a lot of them are very personal to me and my personal story about my grandmothers. And so my Nana, which was my half a modern grandma, she worked for the phone company. She worked for Ma Bell at the telephone company pretty much her entire working career. And so I did a cute little phone block, and it's 6 inches, so that if you don't want to do the applique for a phone block because maybe it doesn't work for you, you can find a piece of fabric and a beautiful piece of your fabric to put as a 6-inch center block. You could do a 1/4 square unit in there if you have some random 6-inch block and that you've not used for something that works with your quilt. You could put it in there, so you can make this more personal to you and your story. Like maybe there's something about your grandma you want to share that hasn't fit so far, but you have a piece of fabric that you know signifies that. Maybe she played golf and you have golfing fabric and you want to put that in there. This is a perfect block for that. Also, I have the layout of it. I'm going to show you some other stuff too, but about the block. But here's the layout. This is a way for you to use either a large scale fabric, which has a 6-inch image, and you can just build these sort of rounds, build the rounds like this, and have just an amazingly fun quilt with your gorgeous fabrics. So it's very versatile. But as you know, I don't do a supply list for this. You know, these are free patterns, and that takes a lot more effort. That would be writing full patterns to do a supply list. So I don't do that. You're kind of on your own, but they can be scrappy. You can use up what you have. Just have fun with it. All right, so this is applique, and I'm doing fusible applique by machine. And so I've got everything drawn already that I'm going to use because I can cheat for the dial. Now I do have, I know, you're sweating. But you know, if you want to do a dial, I do have the applique for you. But I'm going to show you a little cheat where you could just use a piece of pretty fabric instead and not really have a dial, not represent a dial. You know, we don't all want to make that much fussy work. So let me just shift something here and we'll take a look at some fabric. Looking over my shoulder here at the colors of the quilt, this block will go under here. And so I don't really want to do red and turquoise or purple, but I think I can pull some peach in. I think that's really where this is going to go. So I'm going to do that. Going to look at peach as the orangey peach to go on that spot. Now, phones. A lot of the old phones, like my Nana's phone, well, Nana and Pop-Pop, I guess she shared the phone with him. It was black. But I decided that I didn't really want to add black to my mix. And so I am going to do the color of my first phone, which was that yellow. Do you remember the yellow? Yeah, so that is what I am going to do, is a yellow phone. All right, let's look at a couple things. Let's not talk about the dial yet. We'll do that in a minute. But let me talk about what to do for the colors. Now, because I said peach, I am going to use that kind of ballerina pink that I have for the background. A bunch of the backgrounds have this and a bunch have all the white. But because I want to do a yellow phone, I thought this would be a little bit better that I don't, the phone actually takes up a really large portion of the square. You know, it fills it up, so you do not see the background that much. So I didn't want any of the printed ones to compete with the phone. So I'm going to keep it like this. Then I thought, I'll get the orange, and I was thinking, oh, what about gray for here? I could do red as well. I could add a pop of red, but I haven't used the gray that much, and I think the gray would be really lovely. Those two, and they'll be even. You know, 3 strips, the width of them. Now the yellow that is with the line are these, and I've used them a couple times. These yellows, they're actually a bit brighter than the yellow of my first phone. Actually, phones were yellow for a long time. It's like, what was with that? Yellow phones. I'm sure you could get white phones and everything like that, but we seem to always end up with yellow phones. So I thought, well, maybe, and then there's a base. There's like a base that the phone sits on. I'll show you a little bit bigger version. See, there's the handle, the handle, what is that? Am I using the right word? We don't even use those kind of phones anymore. And then the body, and then has a little base to give it some dimension. It's really why it's for dimension, so that you just have a visual like anchor for the phone. So what I could do is I could do a red base, because would pop in a little bit of red, and these two yellows. But like I just said, those yellows are a little bit brighter than what I would like. So I went looking around, and I thought, I've got a good bit of yellow. And so I have this one, which also has a nice design on it. I think that's really pretty. I do believe I'll do it's a handset, right? Oh my God, the words, these old. So I think the handset and the body will be the same yellow. I'm not going to use two fabrics. So it'll be the same yellow. Then I thought, well, I could still do the base in the red, but what if instead I did the gray base? Look at this. Doesn't that look great? That looks great. And then this will be just a little bit of background. Okay, let's talk about that dial, because you may not want to apply a rotary, a dial for the phone. So what you could do is you could look around for a fabric like this, something that has like a single unit that's about, what did I say? I looked at this, and now I looked at it the other day, and now I've forgotten. Let's see. What size is it? That's about 3.5. 3.5 inch this would be centered very, very nicely. You could even do a flower. You could do a single flower. There's a bunch of fabrics that you probably have, which maybe have isolated flower, like a single flower would be pretty on the phone. So you can do something a little bit different. You don't have to do a rotary dial. So, this is all very stylized. Think of it as folk art, because that's what I love. All right, but I'm going to tell you, it's good news for me, bad news for you in a way, because I have a piece of fabric that has rotary dials on it. And I used it when I did the first Grandma's Kitchen. And at that point, it had already been out a little while, like 7 years ago. So your ability to find this might be quite slim, unless you happen to already own it, and maybe you've forgotten that you own it. And I'm going to show you it. So there was a line of fabric with phone things by Ruby Society, and this was called Rotary Club. So, no, it's by Cotton and Steel. I'm sorry, this is by Cotton and Steel. I don't see that. I don't even have, it was Kimberly Knight, Rotary Club. So you could try, maybe you'll find some on Etsy or eBay, or your friends might have some. I actually had a piece, I just kept the square. And so I will use this as my rotary dial, and I will put a piece on here, like the circle. I will cut one of the circles, and I will put it on a larger circle here for my dial. And I'm hoarding that little bitty scrap. I don't have a very big piece. It's not even it's not even a fat quarter or anything. It's less than that. And I am hoarding it, because back when we did this, people bought it from every place they could, and it was gone. So anyway, so it's good news for me, but I suggest that if you just find something fun like this kind of an image, and if you want to know what this is, again, this is an older fabric. This is called Love Story by Maureen Cracknell from Art Gallery. So if you happen to be lucky enough to have some of this fabric and you like that image, but there's lots of images like this, shouldn't be something difficult. That shouldn't be difficult. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cut all of it and lay it down here so you can see it. Here we go. It's laid out. Nothing is stitched. I wanted you to see it in this form. I really love the yellow phone. Oh my gosh, such memories. I love it. I am going to use a darker thread to do the blanket stitch around it because of it being so light. I wanted to have a little bit stronger color here, but the gray is just perfect with that. And I do think it'll be a great color for down in the left side there. That side right there. Look in the monitor here, right over there. So that's where it'll go. I'm going to go ahead and stitch all this and then show it to you. I pulled this green, and that may seem weird, but remember we just talked about this, how one strand looks so different. And here it gives enough definition, plus it goes really well with the gray. So I don't need two thread colors. I can do the gray, and then I'll go ahead. I cut a little bit of the extra gray from around that print, so I can do that as well. So I think I'm going to go ahead and stitch it with this. When you go to stitch, don't just start any old place. Look at how the sequence is, where you can do the least amount of starts and stops, and get the flow nice. So instead of starting like here or here, what I'm going to do is start here. And then I can do the whole body of the phone, and then I can rotate and do this base. And that'll do all of that section. Of course, I have to do the outer circle, the inner circle, and then on the handle or the headset, I will stop and start here between the little head rests, and then I will start either here or here. I start here rather, and yeah, because that's the right direction. Here and go around and do the outer point. So that's how I'll approach it. I love the yellow phone. Oh my gosh, such memories. There you go. You can see the stitching on it, and that little bit darker thread just lets everything have definition so that it doesn't blend into each other. You could of course do the handset in a different fabric, but I really didn't want to do that. It's a small piece, and I think that it just holds together better. And look how fun the framing is around it. Okay, I will put it back over there for a minute, take a picture, and then come back here. Ooh, that looks fun down there. Now it is a heavier orange, and that's kind of nice because it offsets. This is a heavier orange as well with the dress on it, so that's kind of cool. And there are some checkerboards which I'll do in the same as these fabrics. Not the ones that I did there because I've already got those. Well, I could. The other thing I'll do down here on the bottom row is add this darker, bolder sashing piece. I'll add another piece of that. I think there's a vertical that'll work kind of like that vertical, but down here. Okay, there we go. This is the quilt for the Constellation. It is in this book, and in the book it is called something else. What is it called? No, it's called Constellation in the book. The kit is called something else. That's just the way the Fat Quarter Shop does it. The kits have a different name than what's in the book. Okay, there it is. This is what we're doing here. You can see it in the book, and there's the one with my tiny secrets. Okay, so on the calendar I have that for next Thursday. So it'll be a Thursday project to work through the sections to sew it. And I think on Thursday what we'll do is just kind of a prep day. And so those of you who still are ordering your kits, you go ahead and order it, and then you'll be able to sew. We'll sew the first Thursday in June. So I think that'll be the plan. Okay, it's time for a block parade of your blocks from last week. Most of these have a dish or dish story with them because you knew the assignment. First up is Adele and her grandma's bunny trinket dish. Oh, that is so sweet. And their four corners, I have that fabric. I was just showing it the other day. Barb's beautiful, beautiful block and her gorgeous plate. Now, she told me she's been doing more interesting backgrounds as she went along in the project. She said she got braver. Who else can relate to that? Here is Candy's, and I just love, she showed us her grouping of all her blocks together, so I've got to show you that one. Look at this with the red, white, and blue, and she's using a really controlled set of fabrics, and so you can see the red is all that red gingham for all the sashing. Doesn't that look fantastic? For those who are kind of wondering how something like that might look, she did it for you. Carol's got her granny's dish, a serving dish, and she said this is about an 80-year-old dish, which has got some age marks on it, but she says it was used to put meats on Sunday dinners, so slice the meats. And that reminds me of my granny so much, because the meats were like the center of the whole meal, you know? These are Carol's grandma's dishes that she used for holidays, and they were told to be very careful when they washed them. Aren't they beautiful? So pretty. The next one is from Cheryl, and she just has another just gorgeous dishes from her grandma. Those are fancy dishes. Your blocks are beautiful too. Jan's grandma's holiday dishes, because, you know, I think that was pretty much how a lot of people used dishes like this. They were not everyday dishes. They were their things they brought out for special occasions. Gorgeous, gorgeous blocks. Janet, she had several pictures. One was of her grandpa. But I didn't want to show her grandpa's picture without getting permission. So this one, she said that the dish with her grandpa was passed down, and then she also found on the right here these custard cups, these vintage custard cups, which she thought really kind of went with everything. So sweet, so sweet. Janice's beautiful block that is reminiscent of her grandma's Franciscan dessert rose dishes. Okay, raise your hand if you are a person that had those in your family. I can remember my very first job here in Virginia. When we first moved here, that job, one of the ladies had these dishes, and whenever we had events at work, she would bring those in. So I liked them. I always thought, oh, maybe I should get some of those. Karen's mom had ruby red glass dishes, so she wanted to use red in her block, and she thinks that the ruby red glass dishes were probably her grandma's. Kendall also went with red. Now, he's a buddy of mine, and he has a YouTube channel here where he sews the blocks, so check that out. Thank you, Kendall. Lanita's, she told you about all the dishes. The two on the one on the left, the one in the middle were from her grandma's. They were used for special things like ice cream. And then I believe she said the one on the right was her mom's, that they would put baked beans in the corn cob. That's so cute. Mary said that her mom, her grandma had apple blossom dishes. Now, I have to go look up apple blossom dishes, because that name sounds very familiar, like something that I've heard many, many times along the years. Okay, next we have Mildred, and Mildred's, I'm going to show you her block here. Look, she's got coffee fabric. Oh, so cute. But here's her dish, or her cup. This was her grandma's brown dish, and she said that they got them at the movie theater. That's slightly different than what my grandma had. I don't think hers ever had the color bands. It was only the dark at the top. No, none of that sort of light and then cream at the bottom. But I really like that. Here's Moya's grandma's dish. Isn't that pretty? The blocks are gorgeous too. Everybody's blocks are wonderful. Nancy has great memories of summers in Maine, where they had lobster and corn on the cob. Oh, that's my first thing I ever had when I went to Maine, was lobster and corn on the cob at a picnic table along the roadside. That was it. But the plate is just fabulous. So pretty. Sandra's has a collection, a few pieces of her mom's Lenox china. And, look at that beautiful swan and the serving dish. So pretty. Sonia's Nana was from Austria, and that bowl on the right is a sugar bowl, and here's another closer up of it. So cool. That is where all the memories are just amazing, when you have things that really, really speak to our hearts. It's like, and the last one here is from Susan, and she said her grandma had Devonshire red Haviland platter, and she also had she had Devonshire, she had red Haviland platter, and she had blue flow dishes. Something like that. And this is one of the pictures. And then my buddy Suzanne, who also is one of our ambassadors, and her gorgeous red heart. So pretty. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. I hope you enjoy this block, and if you need to substitute it, that's totally fine. It's a 6-inch square. You could cut a 6.5. So whatever, there's the background square. That's if you're just using a single piece of fabric. If you're doing the 100 quilt blocks, those are the right size. So you could use one of those blocks in here. Just have some fun with it. So I love you. Mwah. Thank you for being here in the Sloan Zone. I will see you online.